Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about build costs, and specifically we're going to be talking about the Drekavac. Now, I got asked the question the other day, how do I determine whether something is profitable to build or not? And this is a great example of that, because basically I'm going to build 11 of these ships at the moment. Now, as you can see, I already have the BPCs, and I have gotten these from generally flying in the Abyss. So as we can see, I'm currently in Jitter. I do all my trading in Jitter, but obviously you will be in whatever hub you are in. Now, I take this as a build price, and at the moment I can buy all the components in Jitter for 94.3 million ISK. So the first thing I need to do is determine whether that is a half decent price or not. So at the moment we can see there's a lot of things selling above the general average. So 9% there for the 0 point condensate, 7% for Zydrin, and 5% for mechs. Everything else is pretty much okay. Now at the moment the ships are selling for, it's currently going for 120. I would like to be selling it for 124. First of all, I want to check the graph just to make sure that the price is not doing anything particularly outrageous, and as we can see here, it's been relatively stable for a couple of months, and at the moment it is selling at a slight low point, but nothing particularly out of the ordinary. So again, 124 seems pretty reasonable to shoot for. Now we need to work out the rest of it. So as we determined, it's 124 million that I'm going to be selling it for on the market, and I need to take into account the tax that I'll be selling it at, which is 5.58 because I don't have perfect standings, which is 7 million ISK. So I'll be making 117 million ISK. The build price was 94 plus the installation cost, which is 95. So 117 minus 95.5 will leave me with a profit of 21 million ISK. However, now we need to take into account the cost of the actual blueprint or BPC itself, which are currently selling on the market for 18.4 million. So minus 18.4, and I'm left with a profit of 3.1 million ISK per unit. Now obviously I will be building 11 of these, or the maximum that I can, so that's 34 million or 35 million ISK if we're going to round it off slightly. So not a huge amount of profit for potentially this amount of investment. Now I do obviously have the option of selling the BPCs directly on contracts. However, I've got quite a lot to sell, and generally the ships sell or move a lot quicker than the BPCs, and as you can see here, there's quite a lot of people selling at the moment. So again, the nice thing about contracts, obviously it's harder to amend your order, so once you put your order in, you're pretty much fixed, unless you've got more to come in with. But as I say, I've got about 30 of these to produce, so trying to get 30 contracts out the way is going to be a bit of a pain, so it is easier currently to build the ships. Now, a question that often gets asked, and again, it's not as simple to answer as I'd like it to be, but the question is, why don't I buy, or why don't I factor in buying stuff on buy orders? And as you can see here, I have the 0 point condensates, I've got the isogen, and I've got a few of the other minerals here already, so potentially I don't have to purchase these. So why am I factoring it into my build cost? As it currently stands in Jitter at the moment, I have 5,800 of the 0 point condensate. Now, I did buy this a good while ago. What are we on, 13th? So 7 day a week, just over a week ago. And you can see here I paid, nigh on 57,000 ISK per unit for it. So at the moment it is selling for. However, this isn't factored into my actual build cost, and there's a general reason for that. So let's first of all, 560 per ship. I'm building 11, and I have bought it for save 3,000. So I'm going to save 18.4 million, and pretty much the same for the isogen. So we'll say times 2 just to make life easy. So I'm going to make 36 million ISK from buying that from the buy orders. Now, this is obviously extra profit I will make, but I am not making this ISK from the manufacturing of the ship. And this is a very important distinction here. So from building this ship, other than obviously acquiring the BPCs, etc., I'm only making 3.1 million ISK per ship. Now, if we divide that by 11, so if I factor in obviously the cost of the extra materials, they're not including the tritanium, 3.31 plus 3.31. So each ship I'm now making 6.4 million ISK. So if I times that by 11, that's obviously 71 million ISK profit, which is obviously better than we determined before at the 34. But as I said, this isn't from actually manufacturing. This is from basically trading. I have put an order out and I have bought the materials ready in order to be able to produce these ships. And I could just as easily package this up and now resell it on the market and make that ISK back, basically. So this is why when I am buying stuff or materials that I do not count it as manufactured profit, because again, I'm not making the extra 3.4 million ISK there from the manufacturing. I'm only making the 3.1 million ISK from the actual manufacturing. Now, I don't often use a lot of buy orders when manufacturing, and this is because I don't always know what I'm going to be manufacturing going forward, because obviously prices fluctuate a lot. So the condensates and the isogen there were quite low, so I was quite happy to purchase them in advance with the expectation that potentially, obviously, the price could rise, and if it did, great stuff. And so I say, it was pretty much a low for the year, so I didn't expect it to drop much and only to rise, which is, again, so it was a kind of safe purchase. And obviously I have all these blueprints sat in my hangar ready to be built, so it seemed like a safe bet to be putting the buy orders in for that material. So I do have quite a range of BPOs and BPCs, and I don't always know what I'm going to be building in advance because the market fluctuates and I have to be flexible in order to be able to capitalize on it. And this is why I buy everything from sell orders, or I always price it from a sell order, because again, that is the price the current market is going, and I could just sell these straight back on the market on sell orders and make the same amount of ISK. So I need to determine, as I said, whether the item is profitable to build before actually building it. Now, once built, if the market moves drastically, what I will do, I'll hold on to said item until the market comes back. Now, the question I want to pose to you guys is, everybody seems to put it in as a profit if they manage to get it. For instance, obviously I've bought this under by 3%, 4%, whatever. People always seem to cost that into their ship when they're producing it, to say, oh yeah, I bought it from buy orders. I got the materials from buy orders and I've saved 4% overall. But what happens if all of a sudden the material market shifts and we'll say, scarcity finishes and all these minerals here drop by 50%, either ship or whatever it is that your finished component, whether you are factoring in that movement in cost, because obviously if you know what you're building, and you're building lots of them, then yeah, you can factor in a rough buy price. But as I said, things move, and then is it factored in at a loss then for when you're building it, or do you just keep building it anyway and just then sell it for a loss? I'd be very interested to know the answer to that for most of you, really. So I say that's because everybody seems to factor in, oh yeah, I got it from a buy price, but nobody seems to factor in the fact that obviously prices shift quite dramatically. And this is why, so I say, I don't use a lot of buy orders, because markets do shift quite a lot. And again, I can be wrong-footed quite a lot, and because I build quite a lot of stuff here, there and everywhere, willy-nilly, for instance, today it's Drekavacs, tomorrow I'm probably going to be building some more Vedmacs, then I've probably going to do some 200 mils. I've got some Valkyries to build, bits and bobs like that. But it depends obviously on the time of opening up the market to find out whether it is currently selling or going to lead to me making a profit at that very moment in time. Now I've got them 11 ships installed. Now the point there is, when I click the start button to start the process for the manufacturing, I want to be adding value, and if clicking the start button isn't adding any extra ISK onto the finished product, then I'm not adding value, I'm just wasting my time at manufacturing. Now There are slight exceptions to this, and this is a great example because, again, these blueprints can be they're not hard to sell, but they will take a bit of time. So there is something to be said for obviously bundling them up into a ship to get rid of. So not only am I getting rid of the blueprint, which is 18 million, so I could sell that elsewhere. Obviously, I am making a little bit of ISK, not much, but 3 million per ship for not really doing a great deal. And then obviously I have the bits from the sell orders. But the actual value that I am adding is only 3.1 million ISK. Now, so I say, with everything else taken into account, I'm quite happy with that. But there are, so I say, the odd exception where potentially just building it at base cost would be kind of okay, and especially, so I say, for this, because I've got quite a lot of blueprints to shift, and these only take 2 hours to build. And again, the actual ships themselves on the market sell in very high numbers, so it's a lot easier for me to shift them in ship form than it would be in BPC form. But that's generally how I look at it. If I'm not adding value to it, then I may as well just sell the items straight back on the market and just not waste my time with the manufacturing part of it all. So that is how I look at it and how I cost up an item of whether I think or determine whether it is worth building or not. And that is at the very point of being able to buy the minerals straight off the market. And as we saw here, this is at the moment profitable to build without having to rely on buying the items elsewhere for cheaper, or for getting them in, or however you want to acquire them. Obviously I ran all the abyssal sites, so I could say, well, that was free and that was free, so I've saved, I've made 70 million ISK there. But I haven't made it because, again, I could have sold that straight onto the market and made that ISK anyway. Again, the point I'm interested in is at the point of clicking start, am I adding value from buying the stuff straight off the market? Now, obviously, if I was only building a handful of these, I could put the buy orders in tonight and probably start the process in the morning, and obviously make a little bit of extra ISK here, there and everywhere. So that is how I go about costing up whether an item I personally believe is profitable or not. So again, I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts on that, and whether that is the general way of doing it that you guys look at, or whether you have a different way of doing it. And with that, if you did enjoy this video, then do please drop a like. If you haven't subscribed, then please think about it. It is much appreciated, and drop any comments you want, and I'll do my best to reply to it. So with that, thank you for your time, and I'll speak to you again soon.